Hey everyone, welcome back to Wixfix. I hope you're having a fantastic day. My name is Ryan and today's video is part 2 of our recreating Givingli website. In the last episode, I showed you guys how to create that background color change effect on scroll. And in today's video, we are actually going to be recreating the hero section. So as you can see here, before we even scroll, we have some really nice mouse interactions here. And as we scroll, all of those little elements start to fly out the screen, except for this one and this one over here. And they actually move to go on top of the phone, and then some text elements appear to the left and the right of the phone. That's what we're going to be building in today's video. Now, I will say that there's going to be a lot of moving parts in this video, and I have successfully recreated this in a test site. However, there was a lot of guess and check. So if I do mess up here and there, I'm going to leave it in and I'm going to let you guys see how I'm going to fix it, or how I find the calculations or whatever to actually get it to work the way that I needed it to. So I hope you guys are understanding and patient with me as I build this, because again, there's a lot of things happening in this section, but I want to build it correctly. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right in. So if you watched the last video, the first thing that we're going to actually have to do is we're going to actually have to hide all of the background color change effects. So let's go ahead and start by doing that. So we're going to right click on the 3 dots inside the layer panel on all of these color sections or color containers, and we're going to press hide. So now we're basically left with a blank white website. And what I want to do first is go over to our add panel, and we're going to add a container. Now I'm going to stretch this container to the section. I'm going to remove the background color. I'm going to add about 20% margin on the bottom. So it's basically just going to push the section down. And then inside of this container, I want to add a CSS grid. So we're going to come over to layout, go to advanced CSS grid, and we are going to actually add 3 rows, I believe. Yeah, so we're going to add 3 rows. So we're going to do 1 by 3, just like that. And what I want to do first is I kind of want to set up the height for these. I think for this top one, I chose something around 60 or 80 height. So we're going to do VH, something like that. For this one right here, let's just go ahead and set it to be the same, something like that. And then for the bottom row, we're going to set this to be 40 VW. Great. Let's go ahead and start by adding our phone, which we are going to add into the second row. So what we're going to do is go to media, and we're going to find our phone device right here. We're going to add this to the page, make sure it's in this middle row here. Okay, we're going to make sure it's completely centered by using the align tools in the inspector panel. And then we're going to right click on the phone and we're going to place it in a container. With this image in a container, we can now add other images to the container. So let's go ahead and start by doing that. So we're going to go to add, media, show more. And for this one, we are going to use the celebratory confetti background. So we'll make it a little bit smaller for now. We'll attach it to the container. Let's stretch it. But then for the corners, we're going to go ahead and round them to be like 64, I think is a good radius for these. And then we're also going to go to margin, and we're going to add 5 pixel margin, and we're going to apply that to all sides. Perfect. So now we have a phone background. Now what we need to add is the phone UI. So we're going to come down to our top UI here. We're going to add this, make this significantly smaller, make sure it attaches to the container, and we're going to place it right about here. Now let's add the bottom UI. Once again, make it smaller, place it in the container, and I want this to take up the entire bottom of the phone. Perfect. We'll send this to the bottom. Let's add 10 pixels of spacing, and then inside the layers panel, let's make sure that the phone is actually on top. So we should see something that looks like this. Now I also want to round the edges here because there is a little bit of white that is peeking through the edge of the phone. So we're going to come over to corners. We're going to unlink the corners, and we're going to set these both to be 64 was a bit too much. Let's do like 42. I think that will do. So we'll do 42 for the bottom left and the bottom right. Great. Now we need one more image for the phone that's actually going to go in the container, and we're going to use this one right here. So we'll drag this here. Let's resize it. we'll place it inside of the container, and then we'll make it as big as we can. Okay, and we'll just make sure it's centered here. So this is going to be our phone device. However, if you remember, there's actually 2 icons here as well. So let's go ahead and add the icons. But one thing I do want to note is we actually don't want to add the icons to the phone device. We don't want to add it to the container. We're going to leave it outside of the container. I'm going to move it off to the side after resizing it, and I'm just going to press center. Just like that. Now let's add the last icon, which is this happy birthday. Again, we're going to resize it quite drastically. We're going to position it right about where we want to, but off to the side, and we'll just center it. Perfect. Now let's go ahead and take a look at our section here. So up at the very top, we have text here and a button. And then down below, we have heading text and a paragraph text off to the side. Now, obviously this text is above the phone, and although it seems like this text is below, what we're actually going to do inside of Wix Studio is we're going to add all 3 of those elements here in this top row. So let's go ahead and start by adding a heading 1 text. This might be a bit too big, but we're going to change the text to gift more smiles. We're going to center the text. We're going to change the color to a darker blue, and then we're going to resize the text to be about this size. We can even bring in the width a little bit, and we're going to place it right about here. In fact, it can maybe be a little bit bigger. Now let's actually grab a button, which I'll just grab from the header. I'll paste it. I'll bring this right below the gift more smiles text, and then I'm going to grab both of these and stack them. With the stack selected, I'm going to move down to the position tab, and I'm just going to press this align to center option. So now we have this part done. And if we scroll down, we now need to add this text and this paragraph. So once again, we're going to add it to the same section here. So we're going to go to add. I'm going to do a heading 2. I'm going to change the text in here. We'll change the width to be about this size. But because I am actually using an editing size that's actually smaller than their live website on my screen, I am going to adjust the size to be a little bit smaller here. And of course, we're going to change the color to a dark blue. So we're going to move this right about here, and we're just going to make sure it is centered on the page. Now let's move on to the paragraph. So we're going to move this over here. I'm going to paste in the text. We're going to change the color of the text to our dark blue. And I want this to be 3 lines. So we'll do something about this size, and we'll place it right about here. So for this one, I kind of want the margin to be the same. So we're using 8.5. So if I look at this one, we'll also want this one to be 8.52. That was a complete coincidence that they were both perfectly 8.5. So that's pretty cool. But now we are kind of done with the text elements. And now we can go ahead and start the animating here. The first thing I kind of want to cover is these elements here, okay? I am just going to go ahead and grab these, and I'm going to stack these together just for ease. And for this stack right now, I'm just going to go ahead and right click and press hide. We'll come back to that in just a second. The first thing I actually want to do is this stack right here. With this stack selected, we're going to come down to the position tab, and we're going to set this to sticky. Now, as of right now, we have 16% margin on the top of this. So what I think we're actually going to need to do is set the offset to 25%. Now, the reason I am doing that is because, as you can see, when I'm scrolling, there is a little bit of scroll before the text stops. I don't really want that. So kind of like what I was saying earlier, there's going to be a little bit of guess and check. So now let's just try what 30% will look like. As I'm scrolling, you'll notice that the text is no longer moving. And that's actually exactly what we want. Now let's actually grab this phone device here. So we're going to grab the container for the phone, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to come down to position type, set this to sticky. And I believe for this one, I set this one to 10%. So let's go ahead and scroll up. You'll see it sticks there. Perfect. And then as soon as the phone starts moving, aka the end of the section, we want this text to start moving as well. So if we grab this stack here, just for fun, let's go ahead and dock it to the bottom. We'll see that it also has 16% margin on the bottom. So let's redock it to the top, and let's just add 16% margin on the bottom, and let's see what happens here. So we're scrolling. As soon as the phone starts moving, there is a slight moment where the text actually starts moving before the phone does. If that is the case, if the text is moving or the stack is moving before the phone, then that means the margin that we applied to the bottom is a little bit too much. So let's see 15%. So let's preview this again. We're scrolling, and they are moving basically at the same exact time. Perfect. Okay, so now we have completed that effect. Now what I want to do is let's go ahead and bring in that other stack again, the main stack. So for this one, we don't want this to move up. So similar to what we did with this stack, which we can now hide just to get it out the way for us for now. What we're gonna want to do is we're gonna want this one to be sticky as well. So we're gonna go to position type, set this to sticky, and let's just see what 25% gets us. And honestly, I think that is perfect. But what I will say is we don't want this stack to be in front of the phone. So this right here is our phone, which in fact, in the layers panel, I'm just gonna call this one phone. I'm gonna call this one hero stack. And then this stack right here, which is hidden, is gonna be, I'll just call this one phone stack, I guess. I don't know. It's the stack that's visible when the phone is more visible, okay? But I want the phone to be above the hero stack. So now when we preview the website, the phone goes over the stack. Perfect. All right. But for the hero stack, I'm gonna go ahead and hide this temporarily because now what I want to work on is our little icons. Now I'm gonna move the icons above the phone so that they are visible. And what we want to do, if we take a look at the live website, is the hat is over here on the left. And as we scroll, it moves into place. And then the exact opposite for the happy birthday sign. It starts over here on the right-hand side, and then it moves down into place. So to create that effect here inside of Wix Studio, what we want to do is grab the phone and we're gonna add a scroll interaction to the phone. However, we don't want the animation to be applied to itself. We want to apply it to this image. We just want the phone to be the trigger. So we are going to go from phone to the happy birthday hat. We want the animation path to go to its design. So the end result, we want it to be right here. And we're gonna press move. So we're going to press adjust animation, and what we're going to want to do is move this to the top left, maybe 307 degrees. Again, this is going to take some trial and error, but what we want to do is have the animation start right as the user starts scrolling, right? So right around 20. And then I believe we want it to end right around 50 where the phone gets stuck, right? But now let's go ahead and mess with how far, because obviously this is pretty small right here. So I'm gonna switch this over to viewport and I'm gonna set this to like 40. Let's see where that places it. It's a bit too far, so I'm gonna do 30. And I'll go ahead and maybe just adjust the animation area slightly, okay? So let's go ahead and preview the website and see what happens. So it's right here, it's in place. If I start scrolling, it's gonna move into place. However, you're gonna notice that as soon as the phone gets stuck, the icons keep moving. So we don't want that. So that's another thing we need to fix. However, I do think that this is gonna have to go up a little bit more. And in fact, if I go ahead and show the hero stack, you know, it's gonna be a better tell of where this is gonna need to be. So I'm gonna go into the animation that we just created. I'm gonna kind of try to position this with the angle, and I'm gonna see what like 35 looks like. Maybe let's do 45. Maybe 45 will actually do. And we'll do like 330. I think 330 is gonna look good. Okay, so now we have this effect where it moves into place. But like I was saying earlier, when the phone gets stuck, the icon keeps moving. So now what we need to do is grab this icon, come over to the design tab, and we're gonna set the position type to sticky. Now, the amount that it needs to stick, let's try 10% for now, and let's see where it sticks. So it's gonna stick right there, and that's pretty high for us. So let's grab it. Let's go back down to the offset for the sticky position, and we're gonna set this to 25. Again, this is just trial and error for now, but you'll notice it kind of gets stuck right before the phone stops moving, which means 25 might be a bit too much. So I'm just gonna go down by 1% because it didn't move much. And we are going to see that it stops at the perfect location for us. Great. I will say though, as we're scrolling, you'll notice that it's starting to move up and it's almost like the pin position is kind of keeping it there and kind of making it not look all that nice. So what we're going to do with the animation, we're going to come over here, press move, adjust. What we're going to do is we're going to end the animation a lot sooner. Okay, so we're moving from 20 to 38, and we're going to see what that looks like. Perfect. I think that looks exactly like what we're trying to accomplish here. Now let's go ahead and do the same exact thing that we just did, but for the happy birthday image. Again, we're going to grab the phone container here. We're going to add a scroll interaction. We don't want the interaction to be applied to the phone itself. We want to apply it to the happy birthday image. We're going to press move and adjust. For this one, we want to go in the top left. We're going to switch this over to viewport, and we're going to set this to 40. And then let's go ahead and move the animation to start at 21 and at 38. Okay, so let's go ahead and see where that places it. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. I will say I do think that these animations are starting a little bit too late. So for both of these animations, I'm going to go ahead and set the animation start to 19. And I'm going to do that for this one here as well. And then on top of that, I do want this to move a little bit more. So I'll set this to like 65. Perfect. I think that's the exact location where I actually wanted it. So as soon as I move, it's going to move. But of course, we now need to add the pin position just like we did with the birthday hat. So we're going to grab the birthday hat, go to the design tab. Under position, we're going to set this to sticky. And if we used 24 for this one, that means for this offset, we might need to use something like 30%. So once again, we're just going to go ahead and test out the website, and we're going to see where it sticks. So the phone stops before the icon does, which means we did not use enough. So 30, let's try 34. So we're going to preview the website. We're going to scroll, and it stopped perfectly where we wanted it to. But now you'll notice if we continue to scroll down, the phone will start moving, but the icons won't. So how do we fix that? Well, let's grab this image here. We'll change the docking to the bottom, and we see we have 27.1 docking to the bottom. So let's redock it to the top, and we're going to add 27.1 to the bottom. Let's go ahead and preview the website, and let's see what happens. We'll scroll until the phone starts moving, and that fixed it. So let's go ahead and do that with the happy birthday icon as well. So we'll grab this, head down to the docking, and we will, if we dock it to the bottom, we'll see it has 21. So let's redock it to the top, and we'll add 21% docking to the bottom. Let's double check this by once again previewing the website, and we're going to keep scrolling. Perfect. Alrighty. I will say on preview, the location for the happy birthday might be a bit too far. So I'm sorry you guys have to keep seeing me tweak things. But I'm going to maybe set this to like 58. So on the live website, it's right there. And I think that is perfect. So now that we're finished with this design, now what I want to do is actually add the other icons that we have up here. So if we take a look at the live website, we're going to see a bunch of other icons kind of sprinkled around in the hero section. And then as we start scrolling, they kind of disappear off the page. So that's the next thing that we are going to work on. So let's go over to the add panel, go to media, and let's just grab this heart. Now we're going to resize this. We're going to maybe kind of tilt it a little bit and move it over here. Okay. And with this, all I want to do with the animation effect is we're going to go down to mouse effect, and we're going to do track. Now I do think that the default track animation is quite drastic by 200 pixels. So we're going to set this to like 40 pixels, and we'll go ahead and close out. So now when we preview the website, here's what it's going to do. It's going to look really nice. However, when we scroll down the website, it just moves up, right? And that's not exactly what we want. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click. We're going to place this in a container. And with the container, what we're going to name this is heart, and we'll do move effect. And then just like we've been doing, what we're going to do is we're going to grab the phone. We're going to add a scroll effect. We don't want to apply it to itself. We just want itself to trigger it. And we're going to grab the heart move container. Then we're going to press move, adjust animation, and we're going to move this one off screen. Okay. Once again, we want the animation to start right around 19, and we want it to end probably around 30. However, I did make a big mistake because we don't want it to go to its design. We actually do need to switch the animation path from to its design to from its design. Again, we'll press move, adjust, and now we'll have to kind of reconfigure this effect here. But once again, we are going to set this to start at 19 and we're going to end around 30. So as soon as we start scrolling, it's moving off the screen. In fact, we'll set this to 50 VW just to ensure that it's completely off the screen. So if we go ahead and preview the website, you'll notice it's moving around, but as soon as I start scrolling down, it's going to move off screen. But one thing I will note is that the heart is actually moving upwards. So similar to what we did with these little icons here, we are going to have to apply a sticky position to it. So let's go ahead and grab the heart move box, go over to the design tab, and we're going to go down to position, set this to sticky. And for the top offset, let's set this to be like, we see that this is 33 right here, but I know this one is about 90 pixels. So I'm just kind of trying to adjust for that. Let's do like 40 pixels or 40%. So you can see it kind of stops right here. So that means it moved down a little bit or moved up a little bit. So let's go ahead and bump it up to 45. It's still kind of going up a smidge. So once again, let's go down, let's up this to 50 and we can see it does move up a tad. So I'm just going to set this to 52% and I believe we can call it there. Perfect. Okay. And the last thing I realized is the animation area kind of got messed up. So what we're going to do is move this to match the rest. So 19 to 38. We'll close out of it. And now we should have this effect here. Perfect. I will say that does seem a bit fast. So we could even potentially leave this around 50 to 60%. Yeah, I think that'll do. Okay, so off screen, I'm going to add the rest of the icons really quickly. And I am going to, with the mouse effect, I am going to have them be different distances. So I might put some at 60, some at 30, some at 20 or 10. That's going to give the website a little bit more depth. Okay, I am now back, and as you can see, I now have all of the floating icons here in the section, and as soon as I start scrolling, they all start going off the screen, which is exactly what we want. But one thing I will note is this little happy birthday hat and happy birthday sticker are not moving when I move my mouse. So let's go ahead and fix those. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this image here. We are going to place it in a container and we're just going to add the mouse effect really quickly. So do track, adjust, and maybe we'll just do like 30 pixels. Now let's go ahead and do the same exact thing for the happy birthday sticker. We'll place it in a container, add a mouse effect, track, and maybe for this one, we can do like 20 pixels. Okay, but in doing so, by adding those two containers, you'll notice a couple things. One is that got rid of the sticky position that we had applied to it. So we're gonna need to reapply that. So let's go ahead and grab this image. We're going to grab the container that it's in. We're going to the design tab and we're going to set the position type to sticky. And I honestly can't remember what we had here. So I think we're going to try 25%. I think this one was 24% if I remember correctly. So as we scroll, that's exactly what we want from this. But now we need to adjust the bottom of it. So once again, to figure out the bottom, we're going to come down to the docking. We're going to dock it to the bottom and we're going to see it's 27.1. We'll redock it to the top, but we will add bottom margin of 27.1. Perfect. So now that one is done, but we need to grab the happy birthday sticker, set this one to sticky, and now we need to figure out, let's try 34, and I think that worked. And if my memory serves me correctly, I believe the bottom margin for this one was 21. So I'm just going to go ahead and add 21 to the bottom. And as you can see, it lines up perfectly with the bottom of the row. So I think that was exactly what we needed. Okay, so now we can see that all the icons are moving. And then as we scroll, we have this effect. Great. However, there's still two more things that we need to do. First one being, let's show this stack here again. So we have these here. Perfect. And what we want to do is have these fade in when the phone moves up. So we're gonna grab the phone, head on over to the interactions or the animation and effects tab, and you can see all of these effects that are being controlled by this phone, which are all of these icons above. And we're not quite done. So what we're gonna do is add. We're going to choose the phone stack, which is this one here. We're gonna choose fade and we're gonna adjust the animation. So we want the starting animation to be 0. We want to start this at around, we'll do this one around 25 and we'll end around 50. Yeah, I think 50, maybe a little bit less will do. So let's go ahead and check this out. So as we scroll in, I kind of want this to actually fade in a little bit later, actually. So as you can see, I kind of want it to start fading in right about here and end here. Okay, so let's go ahead and open up this effect, press adjust, and we want to end here, and we want to start a little bit sooner than that. Okay, so let's go ahead and check this out. Perfect. I will say it probably needs to end still even as soon as we hit here. So let's go back into the editor, go into the effect, and we'll bring this in a little bit more. Again, some of this is just guess and check. That's just how it is. But to create this really cool effect, it's definitely worth it. But the last thing we want to do for this section is for this text right here. We want this when the phone starts moving. So we'll grab the phone, we'll add another interaction. We don't want to apply it to itself. We want it to apply it to the hero stack. And what we want it to do is shrink. So we don't want it to shrink to its design. We want it to shrink from its design. So it's going to start here and move and shrink from this size. We'll press shrink and then we'll press adjust. Now for this, we're going to set this from 19. So as soon as we start scrolling, it's going to start. And then around 50, it's going to fully shrink. Perfect. Now, I will say the amount that it's shrinking is kind of drastic. So what I'm going to do is go into the design and we're going to set the scale to like 70. So it's not going to shrink too much and it's just going to be pretty slow. But the last effect that I want to apply to it is actually a opacity effect. So I want to fade out as well as shrink. So what we're going to need to do is the same things we did with all of these other elements and place it in a container. But before I do that, just like we did with these icons, once we placed it in a container, it did remove the sticky position. So we're going to come down to sticky position and take note of the 25%. So let's go ahead and right click on this stack. We'll right click on the stack, place it in a container. Then we're going to come down to position type, set this to sticky and set this to 25%. Heroes. And then I'm going to come over to the layers panel and I'm going to call this hero stack fade. Then we'll grab the phone, head to animation and effects, add another effect, and we want to grab the hero stack fade. We want to switch it to from its design and we're going to choose fade. So the final opacity is going to be set to 0 and we're going to start this at 19 and we're going to end this around 38. So now we should have an effect that looks like this, and you will see it's now placed over the phone again. So that's an easy fix. That we'll need to fix that in just a second, and then we can move on. So to do this, we're going to grab the hero stack and we're going to move this below the phone layer. And now we are done with this section. But to properly view it, I now want to re-show all of our color backgrounds. And now we can view it with the full effect. Nice. That looks really, really cool. And what I will say is it might be good if we actually set this top one to be 80 VH, just because we have so much space here that we could utilize a little bit better. But for now, we're just going to leave it at 60 VH and I'll probably fix this off camera. But we kind of have a general idea for how we set all of this up and got it to work. So it's just now about going in and tweaking the sizing and the positioning of everything. But for the most part, the effect is there and it looks really, really cool. And we built it without any line of code. I do have a couple of things that I want to bring to your attention before we wrap up the video. First one being is at the beginning of this tutorial, we created 3 rows here in our section, and we only put content element in 2 of them. And why is that? If I grab this third row down here, which we set to 40 VW, if I grab this and I set this to 0, then when I preview the website, you'll notice that the phone never even stops like we want it to. So that 40 VW actually acts as a way for the phone to actually stay in place for a little bit, and then it moves up. Now, if you want that element to stay longer, like if we want the phone to stay there for a little bit longer, we could set that 40 VW to a larger number like 50 or 60. And on the opposite end, if you don't want it to stay there as long, you could set that 40 to 20 or 30. That option is completely up to you. Another thing that we did at the beginning, or at least I think I did, I don't know if I just forgot to do it or it got messed up during the building of this section. I'm not really sure. But another thing that I want to make sure we do here is if we grab this section here, we want to add 20% margin to the bottom. What that's going to do is it's going to give us space in between the next section's content and the phone. As an example, if I go ahead and remove that margin, you'll notice that the next section's content is going to go right up against the phone, and then it's going to start scrolling, and that may not be something that you're going for. Of course, alternatively, you could just grab the next section's content and push that down by 20%. That is also a feasible way to do it. But it really just kind of boils down to whichever method works the best for you. And I know I'm going to receive comments like, what about tablet and mobile? So if we go ahead and check out tablet, for tablet, it's going to be a bunch of the same steps that you are already doing on desktop. For example, you're just going to want to maybe move these elements around to wherever you think fits the best. And you're probably also going to want to adjust the sticky position offset as well. And that's really all you're going to have to really worry about for tablet. However, for mobile, you're going to want to simplify it a whole lot more. For example, on mobile, I removed the sticky position from every single element. And I also put this stack here on desktop in the third row. And I made it a vertical stack instead of a horizontal one. So for mobile, if you have all of the same effects that you had for desktop and maybe even tablet, that could cause scroll fatigue for people because using their thumb to scroll on a little smartphone is more exhausting than scrolling on a desktop or tablet screen. So it's easier for people to get more annoyed by the cool effects on a mobile phone than they would on a desktop. So my advice is to just keep mobile as simple as possible. Yes, you can throw in a couple effects here or there. Keep them to a minimal, especially with scroll effects. Keep those to a minimal. But that's basically gonna wrap it up for today's video. If you all did enjoy, please consider giving this video a like and subscribing to the channel for more Wix and Wix Studio content coming out really soon. Thank you all again, and I will see you all in the next one.